Hey everyone, it's Enchanted, and there's some sad news for some, happy for others. Liam Payne from the group One Direction has passed away. When I told my friend this news, he was like, I don't remember there being a Liam on that show. And I'm like, what show are you talking about? This bum was talking about Big Time Rush and not One Direction. So, for you guys that don't know, One Direction was the biggest group in the 2010s. Best comparison in today's terms would be like BTS on steroids. They had a huge fandom like BTS, but they were able to produce, hits that the Western general public knew. Liam Payne was always the least popular member in that group. Feel like being in a group in the 2000s or like, mid 2000s, 2010s, it'd be hard because social media metrics were so in your face. Like in the early 90s and 2000s when, groups were bigger, we all knew who the least popular members were, but it wasn't so in your face. We'd see it in like maybe the tabloids or the magazines. But with the birth of social media, you could literally see who's the least followed or who has the least interactions. And I know that has to be hard. Like I know I would, if I was a group member, I'd be like, it's not looking good. It's not that'd probably be on my mind all the time. And this always opened Liam up to facing a lot of scrutiny. He was the butt of a lot of jokes with One Direction fans. And I know this probably hurt Liam's pride a lot because he's always kind of prided himself as being the member that Simon Howell kind of formed that group around. And he was supposed to be One Direction's it boy, but he was soon overshadowed by Harry Styles and Zayn. By the way, did you guys see that video with Liam and Zayn from One Direction rumbling on stage? I'm like, I didn't see that before. I'm like, how have I not seen this pic? Like they were literally fighting on stage. I'm like, maybe people back then were thinking that they were, just joking, and now that we know how kind of jumbled up that group was in hindsight. Now we're like, oh, that was probably serious. But I'm like, I don't know how they were able to cover that up. Maybe the team was just covering it up, but they were literally fighting on stage. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. With solo careers, Zayn has had, a great start to his career, but Harry Styles was really the one that was the breakout star with One Direction. And he really solidified himself in the music industry. Others have had many hits along the way, but their star power has mainly relied on One Direction's fandom rather than catching on with the general public. Liam Payne seems to have struggled the most with this transition. He had some initial success. I know he had that song with Quavo, but it was fleeting. And unlike the other members, he wasn't really able to capitalize on One Direction's fandom for some reason, and his albums weren't ever able to chart like the rest. Side note, I always feel like, look, I know another side note, but it's always kind of funny now I'm being old enough where I see these breakout stars that were, once in big groups before, but they've broken out so much that they've made a name for themselves outside of that initial group, and younger audiences are starting, they're like, what? Harry Styles was in One Direction? Zayn was in One Direction? It's kind of like how, when my parents told me that Beyonce was in Destiny's Child before she went solo, it's kind of like a full circle moment. I don't know. I think that's funny because lots of people like every time when you bring up One Direction, people are confused that Harry Styles was in the group before. I'm like, it wasn't that long ago. I guess when you think about it, I mean, it was almost like a decade ago. So I guess. But anyway, Liam Payne, he's been embroiled in many scandals and cancelable offenses since, along with his music not doing as well. So, losing a lot of support from One Directioners because he commented a lot on Harry Styles' like lifestyle. Lots of people weren't feeling that. And, lots of people also felt like he would just kind of piggyback off of One Direction too much, just either reminiscing about them or talking bad about some of the members. Lots of One Direction fans didn't like that. So, that caused a lot of break off there. And he was also, called out for dating a 19-year-old and then forcing her to get an abortion. And I know that story was picking up this week. It had a lot of people talking about it. And recently, people were also making fun of the fact that he had gone to one of Niall Horn's recent concerts. And basically, people were saying that he was trying to make himself the center of attention. And, they basically said it seemed like a loser, like it was like loser like activities. You're kind of reminiscing off the past and trying to just get attention from Niall's fans and One Direction fans. People didn't think it was the best look. I didn't think it was that deep, but with all these things, he kind of became the internet's punching bag for the past couple of weeks. So on Wednesday, when we heard about the passing, I initially thought that he committed because people were just bullying him so bad the past couple of weeks and really like this past decade. But it really kind of started picking up again these past couple of weeks. However, later reports showed that he was on heavy drugs while at this hotel in Argentina, and he was breaking a lot of things. He was going a bit frantic, and he jumped off a three-story building. And not to be insensitive, but I'm like, 3 stories doesn't seem high enough to kill someone. Like, I know that might break your legs or, break your bones, but I'm like, that's like 30 feet. But I don't know, you're on drugs, you're kind of rampant. Maybe he landed on his head, that probably made a big difference. Um, the internet, from what I'm seeing, they're having mixed reactions. At first, when the news firstly broke out, uh, people were just shocked. And I mean, his death was just random. I'm like, I saw it on TikTok, and I'm like, it was like 4 minutes ago. I'm like, this is a lie, but I'm like, let me go confirm on Twitter because Twitter will let you know. So I go on Twitter, and it's like 90,000 tweets about Liam Payne. I'm like, this is so random. I mean, he's a young dude. He's in his 30s. I think he was like 31. And it was just so unexpected. And at first, it seemed like everyone was just, giving their condolences and kind of scolding people that were previously bullying him. Because, like I said, past couple of weeks, he was a punching bag. So people were kind of going in on, people that were bullying and saying, don't, stop all with all this fake, oh, this is so sad. This is so sad because you guys were just bullying him last week. But now I'm starting to see a shift where people are kind of, making fun of his death and kind of putting his character into perspective. I think a lot of people couldn't wait to just bring up, of his troubled past, which kind of shifted this narrative. Personally, I think it's really sad. I know he wasn't anywhere near the best person, but I know he has a kid, and that's really tough. I wasn't a huge One Direction fan, but I knew of them, so they're kind of, embedded in pop culture. They seem so familiar, and so it kind of just made me feel something. I mean, I knew he wasn't the best person, but to me, it's just sad. Regardless, it was just sad, and it was a shocking death. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Were you guys shocked as I was to learn of Liam's passing? Did we know that he did substances? I feel like that was kind of a thing that's been brought up, but I don't know. I don't think I was too stuck on that to where it was like in my head that like, oh yeah, it had to have been drugs or something. Like I don't know if he was that rumor was that big of a thing or if it was just a rumor, but apparently he's been doing drugs and he's been struggling with them. Um which side are you on with this? Like, I know, are you on the side that thinks it's a tragedy, it's a sad thing? Like, I think it's sad. And then there's others that just think it's his karma that caught up to him, taking advantage of young women or, forcing his ex to get an abortion. People are like, that just seems like karma. You're a bad person, bad things happen. That's what some sentiment is towards the situation. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, like and subscribe, turn on your notifications, and see you guys in the next video.